Hello, my name is Matthew, and I made a video the other day talking about the books I want to read in the upcoming year, and I was holding the Canterbury Tales, and I was thinking, what a big book this is. And I have the day off today, and I was thinking about that, and also looking at my shelves and thinking, what are the biggest books that I own? That was Andy in a flash. Um, Biggest size, bulkiest, heaviest, longest length. Um, and I'm sure there's been a tag like this. I know it's not an original idea. It seems kind of superficial, superficial to talk about the dimensions of a book, but um, of course, the length of a book, these great big tomes, um, can be engrossing and otherworldly in a way that um, smaller works, smaller novels, um, have a much more difficult time doing. And I find the really long books that I read and are done well, done brilliantly, masterfully, I always wish they were longer. Every time when I finish the Karamazov brothers, a long book that I love, I just think it could be twice as long. But anyway, I had just a little bit of fun running up and down my shelves, looking for great big books. And I made two piles. This will either be a top 10 or top 20. I have 20 books here. It could be 10 runners up. And I don't know if it's a tag or not. The rules that I gave myself for um, the 10 biggest books. No oversized, I didn't pick any oversized art books, no multi volume books. Like here's Remembrance of Things Past, and um, the 3 volume Old Testament set. No reference books, so no Bartlett's famous quotations or anything like that. But there are collected works as long as I have it as one volume. So the 10 runners up, I'll start with the Canterbury Tales, which is substantial. It's a nice big book. It's humorous at the beginning to think um, how small this will eventually seem in comparison. Um, this is Ducks Newburyport by Lucy Ellman. I read this a few years ago, and I don't read too much current fiction. I thought it was fabulous. It doesn't. It's not. I think it's like 1,000 pages, something like that. 1,000 pages. Um, I found that um, the repetitiveness pulled me in instead of annoying me in any way. I really enjoyed it. Um, Don Quixote, which is famously one of these long old classics, just seems so small in comparison. Don Quixote is one of my favorite novels of all time. I will be reading this year. Um, and what an edition of a certain work can do. So this is the Iliad, the Robert Fagles translation. I got this at a used bookstore sometime last year, and it's just this sturdy, heavy, handsome, nice book that looks good on the shelf. It feels good in the hands. It has spot illustrations, and um, but you don't have to get a copy of the Iliad that looks this big. Um, an oversized NYRB classic. This is Shelley the Pursuit by Richard Holmes, a biography of um, Percy Shelley. And I loved this biography. I don't read too many biographies. I found that I really like the author, Richard Holmes. He did the two-part biography of Coleridge. And Richard Holmes um, just did a lot for me to appreciate the Romantics. And this is just a terrific, nice long read of a man's life. Juliet by the Marquis de Sade. Nice big heavy thing. Dirty French novel. Um, a book because everyone was talking about it on YouTube, and it just hit my radar in a way. It's Recognitions by William Gaddis. I haven't read it. It's supposed to be one of those modern classics. For the longest time, that was right up my alley. But at some point, I'll get to this. The Bible makes an appearance again. Just like seems so small in comparison. And that the complete works of Montaigne. I have this. What is this? The Everyman's Library edition. And yeah, the whole mind of Montaigne right here. The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. For anyone that knows me, would probably be just so surprised that I haven't read this. I haven't read anything by Dumas, and I I love reading my French novels. Every time I take a moment to consider this book, I'm baffled myself that I haven't read it, and I only hear good things. It's supposed to just be one of the greatest French novels, French writers of all time. I need to get to this sometime soon. So 10 runners up, and now the other 10 are going to be the bigger books, and there's like a middle period where that's why there's no kind of ranking with the ones that I just showed, because there's a lot of books that are just sort of like around the same size. But for number 10, I'm going with Joseph and His Brothers, and it does seem rather compact, but this is an Everyman's Library edition, printed on that onion skin paper. This thing is just shy of 1,500 pages long, and when holding this book, it feels heavy. There's a density to this book. I read maybe about a quarter of it or a third of it. I gave up. I tried to read it maybe 2 years ago for March of the Mammoths. And a lot of these books are actually Steve recommendations. Samuel Johnson, The Selected Writings. This is an Oxford University press. Again, feels heavy in the hand. And I haven't read the whole thing, but I since I bought it maybe a year and a half ago or something, I have spent time reading the writings of Samuel Johnson, and the reason for that, number 8, is The Life of Samuel Johnson by James Boswell. By comparison, it's just gigantic books. And I read this a year ago, 2 years ago, something like that. I did a read along, talking about the book as I went through it. Utterly fantastic. I loved spending time with Boswell and Samuel Johnson. That's why I was so interested in reading the Selected Writings. So 10, 9, 8. Number 7, another Steve recommendation. And it's The American People, Volume 1, Search for My Heart, a novel by Larry Kramer. And it's just huge. Yeah, maybe I could go like that. Oh, God. I know virtually nothing about this book, but just from the description of just a newer book within the past 30 years, that comes off as a sort of curiosity, something that's hard to define. I can't really say much about it, but there was something that just like pulled me toward it. And again, I haven't read it. Last year's attempt for March of the Mammoths was Clarissa by Samuel Richardson. And look at this thing. It's just, these things are gigantic. Um, I read maybe 30% of this, something like that, and it's beautifully written. I often I thought, um, when I think about this book, it occurs to me that I might have benefited from spacing out um, my reading pace instead of trying to um, read for very long durations. I'm not a fast reader, but um, to not read it hurriedly and to spend a year with it instead of trying to cram it down in a month, giving me a sour taste. Um, Another recent buy, another recommendation from Steve, The House of Government by Yuri Slezkine, and The Doorstopper. Um, from what I understand, one of those microcosm novels. It's the description of a single apartment building in Soviet Russia, um, meant to give a broader understanding of um, the country of the time. I really do hope to read this year. This book sounds very interesting to me. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Number 4, The Tale of Genji. Nice, big, floppy, heavy book. One of those ancient Japanese novels. Um, don't really know anything about it other than it's an ancient Japanese novel. um, from what I understand, it's an alien reading experience. It's very, very different than um, any sort of Western novel that I would be more used to. Number 3, The Complete Works of William Shakespeare, and just a nice, big, heavy collection of the plays, poetry, beautiful gilt edges, little ribbon. And I bought this past year, not because I wanted to sit down and read Shakespeare in this format, and not necessarily to have it on my shelf to show off. I It occurred to me at some point I was reading something or listening to something, and it was some play by Shakespeare. I don't remember, and I realized I didn't have the play. I'm not Shakespeare's biggest fan, but hadn't read. I didn't have the play, and I just thought I really need just a nice collected works whenever the mood strikes me to be able to pick it up, flip to something, and read Shakespeare. It just seemed like an essential part of my little library. If I found that I wanted to actually sit down and read one of the plays, I would um, download it on my e-reader and read it for free. But the instant gratification of being able to pick it up, flip it open immediately, uh, seemed like a worthwhile purchase. The essential number 2, The Essential Goethe, and let's see if I can just give a comparison with something. So this one, which is a great big book, Juliet, and then this is a little bit thicker, but this is a very large, heavy book. I'm like Shakespeare. I'm not a huge fan of Goethe. I've read Faust, his novel Elective Affinities, Sorrow of a Young Werther. He's one of those writers that I feel like I want to be more well acquainted with. I saw this at some point and thought um, it'd be nice. And this is the kind of book that feels like it's very serious, and that you're gonna read this over a steady oak table by an oil lamp, and read serious, ponderous writings by Goethe. And then number 1, as far as I can tell, just the largest uh, book that I have, and it's Les Miserables by Victor Hugo, translated by Julie Rose. And it's just huge in every way. It's long, it's heavy, it's big, bulky, feels feels like you're lifting weights when you're holding this. I love Les Miserables. I still have not read this translation by Julie Rose. Um, and it's one of those things when a book is this big, um, it's not necessarily something that I want to sit down and read on my lap. Like I was saying with Goethe here, it's almost like you want to put it on a table and open it up. And these are the kind of books that are so well bound, the whole thing just lies flat. Um, and let's see if I can find like Victor Hugo would be very happy to be compared, have his work compared to the Bible. Um, and so, yeah, those are 20 of the biggest books um, that I own. Um, I don't know if this is a tag or a top 10 list or anything like that. It was just a silly idea um, that maybe had a little bit of fun running around the tiny house. You can see the cats running around. And I thought I'd share it with you. If you feel like doing it as a tag, you're tagged. Um, just about matter of showing 10 or 20 of your biggest books, a little bit of what you think about them. If it's a top 10 list, then it's a top 10 list. Let me know what you think. Please leave a comment if you'd like. Let me know any of your thoughts on these books, or just let me know what are the biggest books that you have, if it's fun to talk about. So please leave a comment if you would like. Thank you for watching, and take care.